Hi, Carol here, and thank you for joining me for the range of crayon technique on a canvas. And Marla Owens won one of the prizes for my 3000 subby, and I'm going to begin with her project. Now, this is a package of sticks that are two to a package. You break them apart. I always get them when they give you your Chinese, excuse me, your Chinese food. So I bring them home and save them just for stirring my gesso actually. And I put some gesso on the right side of this wooden frame because you're going to need a nice coat on this wooden frame. I'm doing an indented frame for a reason, and I'll share that with you in just a minute. You're going to stir it up to a nice thick consistency, enough where you can spread it around to put a couple of coats on there. So I won't bore you with the whole painting of this. I'm going to move it right along, but you're going to need to do the inside. I'm still fighting the flu and a couple of day migraine, but I wanted to get this up and running the minute I was feeling a little bit well. And I'm just really getting excited about this when I heard what Marla wanted as far as a canvas. And that's why I went with the indented frame with wood. Now her colors were taupe and turquoise. There's no nicer colors for vintage than taupe and turquoise. And she likes bird cages and birds. And are you kidding? I knew in my mind immediately what I was going to do. One, I'm going to make it double-sided so she can flip it around and have two canvases for one. The inside will be a mixed media project, so that it has a 3D look, and the other side will be a painting from me. I love to paint, and this will give me an opportunity to paint a bird scene on, well, I'll show you in just a minute what we're going to do with it. I don't want to take away from it, but it is going to be a drawn picture, and I'm going to use my acrylic paints for that. So let's move along in after we get all of this frame gessoed inside and out. It's really important to get a couple of coats on it, and I use those sponge brushes so that I can get right in the corners, especially the other side, because I am going to paint on it. So all gesso is a primer. It's just going to prime the places that you're going to apply medium on. When I'm working with a wooden box, this one, I think it was from the dollar store actually. It's a really nice wooden box. There's hardly any frays on it. It's pretty smooth, and you want to make sure that it's very dry when you start applying any medium. So if you're new, just grab yourself some gesso and gesso it, and if it says it's pre-gesso, which this wouldn't be because you can see it's pure wood, but if it does, just put some on top. It doesn't hurt anything. Look at me. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm OCD, but this is crazy. I can't work in a messy condition. So here I am cleaning up. I'm doing mixed media, can you believe it? And I'm cleaning my area. Oh, that is so silly. Now I'm going to work on the flat part. Now that I've got my area clean, I decided to put a cloth down, a fiber cloth. They work really well because it doesn't slide, and you can get them at any hardware store. I get them at Canadian Tire because I'm Canadian, and I get them for a really good deal, all different snazzy colors. And I put it down, and now I'm scraping the rest of my gesso to make sure that this side is the side I'm going to be painting on. And we are going to use the fabulous Distress crayons. Now, I know they don't like to say it's watercolor crayons, so I'm calling them Distress crayons. And they are, I'm going to tell you, they are the top medium to work with. So my friend that won this canvas, she said, ignore that marker sitting there, okay? I put it away. I don't know what I'm thinking here, but I'm looking at the colors and I'm thinking that's turquoise, but it's not. Marla likes turquoise. Yeah, so this is Vintage Photo that I'm using, and then I have to, no, I have to take that away. Don't even look at that one. And then there's Hickory Smoke, I think that's it. If it isn't, I just created a new color, and then I put that away and I grabbed my peacock feathers, I'm pretty sure. Yes, and then I twist the cap and off I go. Now I want to tell you, when you use these crayons, you want to apply a heavy coat. And the reason for that is, if you don't, you cannot manipulate it on the canvas, especially because I have the dried gesso on there. So I want to have a heavy coat, and this is going to be a sky. And I can move this myself with water, and it moves better if it's thick, if you apply a thick coat. Now, at first when you do it, don't worry about getting it exact, like an exact sky replica. Just put your color where you think you want it, because the colors that Marla wanted in here is turquoise and taupe. So what I'm doing here is I'm laying a base for my sky. I'm getting it as thick as I can, and when the crayon goes all the way down, I just twist it like I'm doing right now and adding more. I need another twist on there. And excuse me, I can't laugh. And I absolutely, when you see the finished top of this, you're not going to believe how beautiful these crayons are for mixed media, for painting. I had an image in my head. I knew exactly what I was going to do, and I knew on this side I was going to do a painting. So I took my new crayons, and even though this is the first time I've used them, it doesn't take you long to get adjusted to the beautiful silk feel when they hit the canvas. It's absolutely stunning. That's my word. It's got an opacity all its own. It dries in no time, and it's not going to move with water unless you move it. Okay, that's the key to these. And I'm sure everybody has watched videos on how to use these crayons. So here I am putting down the Hickory Smoke, and generously, as you can see. Then I'm adding my Vintage Photo. Then I realized I had too much Vintage Photo. No problem. You just see how I'm doing this? That's not taupe. Yeah, I'm dragging it along. Excuse me. I'm dragging, and I'm going, that doesn't look like taupe. So I grabbed a baby wipe. No fear. Dab it in there and take off the Vintage Photo. Then apply a hefty amount of the Hickory Smoke, and look at that, you have taupe. It's gorgeous. I love it. And then I'm going to add water, and I'm going to manipulate the top, and then I'm going to go, oh no, it looks the same as the other one. So I'm going to just blot it, and then I'm going to add some more of the Hickory Smoke. There you go. And you end up with the taupe color. You need the Vintage Photo and you need the Hickory Smoke to get the exact color of taupe. But you don't need as much of the Vintage Photo as you do need the Hickory Smoke, okay? So here I am just, playing around, lifting it up, and I'm going to stop when I feel that I have the exact colors I want to work with. The wonderful thing about these crayons, that I like about them anyway, is that you can remove them with the baby wipe right there, because you have enough thickness on there to have something to remove, right? If you didn't put a thick coat on there, you'd have to wipe it, and you don't want to do that. So now that I have the areas, and this I know does not look like a sky, and when you see the process, you're going to understand fully, well, it had to be like this. Now here comes the fun. I took a Tim Holtz stencil, and this is a wood grain stencil. I took my baby wipe and I laid it down, and I'm going to remove the actual crayon underneath right here. And isn't that stunning? And then after we get all this process done, I'm going to show you how you make that sky look perfectly smooth after you have laid out this foundation. So I'm dragging this baby white. Now with the stencil, I realized that halfway down you have to run your baby white only halfway because it has those little wee plastic pieces. So if you take it halfway down and then on the bottom start up and meet in the middle, you won't catch those little things. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? And I want this bark to be in different spaces and in different design as I'm going along. So as I proceed here, I am going to take it in the areas that different areas. They're not going to be directly underneath, as you will see here. And then I like that knot that is in that stencil. So where you see open space, I'm going to add just those knots in the stencil. So I'm moving it along, and this is going to be a double stencil. You'll see what I'm talking about as I get going. This is just the base. This shows me right here how I need to move that sky underneath, which is really amazing. So just take, here we go, cleaning up again. And I am going to use this again, but I don't want to use it when it has a mess on it. So just spray it with water, use your baby wipe, set it aside, and it'll be good to go for the second coat. Yes, and then it works well with this nice fiber cloth, nice and dry, and then put it away and we are ready to go. Well, we're going to begin the real fun part for me, and this is how I'm going to move that sky behind the already stenciled area. So I'm going to take out Distress inks. Now you know everything rolls back to the Distress inks. Anything that is made by Tim Holtz has to work with Distress inks, and I love that part. So I took out 3 colors. The pistachio was one of them, and then I took out the pumice stone, and I took out the tumbled glass, and that's what I'm going to work with here. They aren't the same colors as I used in the background, and that is good because I want to manipulate the color with lighter tones, and you will see how nicely that works here once we get started. I think when you move colors underneath, I'm just making sure it's dry, and it dries in no time, but I'm going to go over it with my heat tool and make sure that it is dry enough for me to apply the Distress inks. And when you're going to smooth out any object, you don't want to go to a darker color, right? Because I want to manipulate this darker color, so I am using a light color. So I'm taking away some of the area. This is a vintage style painting that Marla wants, and I want to see how light. That's why I moved it here. I'm testing the canvas on exactly how I have to move this crayon underneath. So I took some of it off, and I realized I have to go direct ink to the canvas, not the applicator. So that was good. So I put it direct, and then I move it with the applicator. And I'll show you how I do that in just a second here. So I start dabbing everything with the lighter inks, exactly where I want them, where I want that color, the lighter color. And I love the pistachio. Pistachio goes really well with turquoise. It's almost like a sea. You know, you have the turquoise and the pistachio together. It looks like it just makes a beautiful sea scene, makes a beautiful sky scene. So I'm dragging it ink to crayon right here. And I'm putting down the pistachio, as you could see, and I'm dragging it, and now I'm twisting it in certain areas because you're not going to see it. All I wanted to do was manipulate the colors and drag them so they didn't look so edgy, you know, like one color into another color. And I will actually excuse me, take a baby wipe and take away the edges, and we're going to reapply the stencil once again with the baby wipe. And you're going to lift up more of it right there so it looks like a hazed sky. I want it to have a lighter tone, and I want it to look hazy because I am going to draw some trees on here with some birds, and I'm going to do a forest scene on the back. In order to do that, I needed to move some of the color underneath, some of those tones. I needed to bring them to a lighter stage so that when I draw this forest scene on here, it is going to look like a misty background because I have removed some of the turquoise and some of the taupe. Once I get the knots put in where I want them, as you can see, I'm just taking off the places right there that I want it to look like a lot of trees. Because when I draw this forest scene, you're going to see how this plays into part as more of a background scene. So now, yeah, here I go. Yes, bear with me, please. Yeah, I'm even doing this with a migraine, if you can believe it. I just wanted to get started, but I've had it for 2 days, so it's okay. I think I'm going on the end of it. And it brings me joy to do this, and it takes my mind off having, off the flu and a migraine. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. Yes, you have the mist. Wait till you see when I get this forest scene drawn on there, how beautiful that background crayon is going to look. But to do this, I decided to use, first of all, I grabbed the Distress Paper Mosaic Glaze. I'm looking for it here. It's a set of 3, and it's right there. It's paper mosaic. It's almost like glossy accents with a thinner consistency, and I'm putting it on the knots. I'm going around, and I'll show you what I'm doing. I don't want them to be raised up, but I do want them to have a shine because I want it to look like when I color it in after I draw the forest, I want it to look like the sun is streaming down through the trees, and I will be able to do that if I have some of this gloss over top. And then I'm going to take, after I get this on, I'm going to take a sponge applicator and lightly, oh so lightly, I'm going to show you what it looks like right there. Boy, that was long, wasn't it? And then as light as a feather, I'm hardly touching it. I am taking some of that glaze off of there because I'm going to make it look like sunlight coming down, and when it hits this glaze, it's going to look like the sun coming through the trees, and it is going to be truly unique. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want it crackled. I want to put a Crackle Medium on it because I want the tree bark to have cracks all over it. I want it to be vintage, old, and I want it to look like a forest and age. So here's the Craftsman Crackle, and I got this at Michael's, and it's wonderful. It is a premium Crackle Medium, and it works wonderfully, and I'm going to show you how it does it. It's almost clear like a glossy accents, and the way I'm using it here is I'm going to put it onto the Distress Crayon, and it works fantastic. It crackles up exactly how I wanted it. And then it doesn't crackle where I put the glaze. So I just gave it a little shake. There you go. I'm showing you the top of it. It's premium crackle. And I'm applying it here to most of the areas. I'm missing a few. You can see that. It's kind of like in lines, and I'm leaving about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm making, excuse me, a really thin coat. You don't want a thick coat because when you heat it to crackle it, it will burn. So keep it very light. And I'm going to do a corner right here and show you exactly how when you heat it. I'm going to leave it overnight because I want soft crackles in it as well. But I'm going to show you what happens if you have too much applied to here. I'm able to take it off, so don't worry, I'm not going to ruin it. But I'm going to show you what it's like to have it too thick compared to here it's thin. And see how I'm getting that delicate light crackle when I heat it? I'm pretty close to the canvas here, but I am getting a beautiful crackle on the bark. It is a premium crackle, but see right here where it is thick, it's yellowing on me. It is not crackling like I want it to. I want it to look like the bark is aged, and I can only get that with the thin layer, and that crayon is actually, with the heat, I'm just taking off some now on that right side where it looked like it was raising up and it was turning a bit yellow right there. You probably can't see that, but I just took a tad of it off. I got it off. It'll wipe right off. You just don't want to have your heat tool directly on it like that. Raise it up and then let it crackle like it's doing there. And once I leave it overnight, this whole scene with the stencil, with the bark, will have a crackled effect, and I think it will really add to the painting. So here I want to go over the entire canvas, make sure that it's nice and thin, because I'm going to close the light off and I'm going to leave it till tomorrow. I'm going to let it do its thing. Look at how beautiful that's looking already with that misty background with the crayon. This is truly a magnificent mixed media wonder, these crayons are. And I'm going to show you some different techniques as we move to another spot. Here goes the lights. Have yourself a blessed weekend, my friends, and I will carry on. Marla, I hope you're enjoying this. She gave me permission to show it, and she told me she's going to watch it. So there you have it, Marla. I hope you like it, and we will see you on the next video. Take care. Lights out. We will see you again. Bye now.